Hi, Bart Riley here, and have you got writer's block? Well, have I got a laxative for you? Ideas to inspire ideas, giving you the creative giving another video game idea away today, but depending on your point of view, it's in a genre that's either very overexposed or not exposed enough. It's a game that delves into the emotions and mental health of the protagonist. Because we sure don't talk about mental health enough around these parts. I only half say that sarcastically because I see a lot of mental health discussion because I personally gravitate towards that kind of media. But that's also why I know it's a topic that the whole world needs to talk more openly about and need to let go of a lot of negative beliefs. The setup of this story is basically The Witcher. If you've played The Witcher, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't played The Witcher, I can't judge, I haven't played it either. But it's that medieval fantasy, monster hunter, rip-roaring fun adventure. Your main character is inflicted with an ancient curse of weaponized empathy. As a monster hunter, you have to do a lot of hand-to-hand combat with different creatures, but every time you get hit and come into direct contact with them, you are given a flash of memory or how the creature is feeling at that moment, which kind of gets in the way of you having to kill them. At the start of each fight, you have a plethora of fancy action moves, kind of like Devil May Cry, but as you keep taking damage, your character loses the will to fight, so can't do as many flashy moves. So at the end of the fight, when it's not your health that runs out, but your willpower runs out, you just give up the fight and let the creature go. Because you empathize with the creature too much. You've seen that they have a family, or they struggled so much in their life. Wait, if they've struggled so much, you could just put them out of their misery, which goes against the point, but maybe one or two actually want to die at the start, but then more creatures fighting to stay alive, so... And while I'm throwing out ideas, that kind of combat system can also work for an aging or terminally ill hero. As you're taking damage in the fight, it's harder to control a character who's struggling, and you're really connecting to your character through gameplay, feeling the agony. This is all in service of the great moral quandary of video games. How do you present good and evil to the player? More complex than the press of one of two buttons. Unless you're specifically playing Grand Theft Auto, most games are set up to have you as the hero doing the right thing in the long run, but then rarely look at the moment-to-moment morality throughout the game. Like, I personally don't enjoy shooting people in the face, but I'm perfectly happy to crush innocent animals under a plumber's crack. Because as a monster hunter, you kinda have to kill things if you want to get paid. If you don't kill them, your employer is going to be really annoyed. But if you do kill them, you're probably going to be hunted yourself by the medieval RSPCA. But not the medieval PETA, because that's a third grey area we don't really want to deal with. And depending on which course you go with the animals, you start coming into conflict with humans who are even more complex and screwed up. And if the player still wants to be the best at killing things, they gotta be the best, like 0 damage taken. And really try to encourage the positive choices, not the negative ones, as fun as they may seem. Because really, even if you go for the love and peace, hippy-dippy philosophy, man, someone's still gonna hate you for it. Like, I can sit here and say that my opinion is that we should all be allowed to have our own opinion. But what good is my moral compass when someone else's opinion is intentionally my opinion sucks? Lately I've been trying to think of like great examples of morality in games, and only came up with a couple. Undertale is the obvious choice, but I've never played it, so I can't talk about it. Dropsy, a game about a clown going around making everyone happy and hugging people and never having to face a situation where he can't make someone happy. Except maybe the villain. Literally the opposite is A Hat in Time, where the finale addresses the idea of a world without bad guys, but the world is nothing but bad guys joining together to tell Mustache Kid to bugger off. So... And finally, the first Ratchet and Clank game, which is pretty much my answer to every perfect game question. You see, in a galaxy rampant with self-centered individuals, Clank was largely the only one who showed compassion for others, and had to drag Ratchet along most of the time until he learned to care as well. Including the perfect game completely ruined. And that's why this idea really has to be done by an indie developer or a moderately small group. The ideal would be to give this kind of lesson as wide a range of audience as possible. But trusting a AAA studio to teach morality just feels wrong and gross. Let's look at the big picture here. The people who create mainstream media more or less get to decide what constitutes as normal for the rest of us, especially in mental health. I personally am autistic and actually learned my empathy from these twits who have none. How the f*** does that work? Thanks for watching. This is my verbal declaration that I will not sue anyone for using the previous outline to create their own work, regardless of how much fame or money you might get from it. I'm definitely not the kind of artist who thinks I can own a concept. However, I would like to see what comes out of this video just for comparison and curiosity. If you do make something or find an existing piece that's similar, please let me know through Twitter or Facebook or email, and I'll happily check it out. And if you want to see the ideas I am working on for myself, please visit my Patreon page for samples and previews, no payment required. Happy creating, Bard Riley out!